All right, welcome to another episode of Wall Street Rundown. I'm your co-host Billy, and I have my co-host with me, Wale. What's going on, Wale?
Not too much, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Today, man, it's like this whole week has been I don't know. I didn't take a single trade this week. That's how confused of the whole movement I was. And I should have taken a put yesterday because I was like, I remember I texted you, I was like, nah, Trump is gonna retaliate. I should have just took a put, man. But
Yeah,
yeah, man. But we closed the month surprisingly really well. I mean, the stock kind of we went up a little higher than normal. So from record breaking tech earnings, like we see inflation data easing, and we have a lot of major news from tariffs, and it just so much information was coming at us this week that it just like a
there's a
lot
lot
of
of
people.
whipsaw.
Oh man, it was too much. It was too much. And then we had the PCE come out, all of that stuff that cannot come out this week, and it's been, I don't know, it's just been a an interesting week to say the least. The S&P closed up 5,911 and 69. The Dow Jones was up like 42,200. I mean $42,270 in '07. The Nasdaq kind of dropped a little bit today at the close. We were down slightly. The Russell, I mean, Russell been getting hammered. I don't know what we're gonna end up seeing like a good move from that. But despite all of these, man, we still closed the week. They're saying this is the best performance since 2023, which is crazy. Right.
Yeah, I think
So
the month of May this year was really good.
yeah,
I'll admit this week was probably not my best trading week. I think I took two trades. One was for like 18%, one was for like 11% today.
yeah,
But there was a lot of whipsaw action that I was not prepared for. We had two big gap ups this
yep,
week,
yep,
one that held and one that completely faded. So
yep, yep.
um, a lot of a lot of good data, but also too, again, I keep saying this, I'm still not really sold on everything just yet.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
as headlines continue to drive the markets, you can't really pick a side just yet
Yep.
with
So
conviction, at least for me.
yeah, yep, that's true, man. So speaking of data, man, let's jump into the PCE. So the April 2025 PCE, which is personal consumption expenditure, indicates that continued cooling of inflation, which I was kind of surprised about it. Like, wait, what? What's happening? We're actually getting closer to the Federal Reserve target, which is 2%, right? So we actually getting closer to it. So PCE increased by 0.1% month over month and 2.1% year over year, down from 2.3% in March, which marks again, we just going back to those numbers. This is the lowest since September of 2021. This is crazy. Like, and then core PCE went up a little bit. Month over month is by 0.1% and year over year by 2.5%. It's still slowest in pace since 2021. The other thing that was interesting, the personal income actually increased by 0.8%. So people are making slightly about a little bit more money in April. This was
and
driven by gains in wages and social security payments.
and Trump went ahead and during his little presser with Elon Musk today, he brought his laptop out and he showed everybody that 0.8% increase in income, talking about, oh, I've never seen numbers like this before. So he made sure everybody knew
Everybody knew what he was doing.
what he was doing.
He
So
would take credit for that.
yeah, he's definitely putting his stamp on that number for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but as the data continues to come, like we're starting to get inflation data over the last 2 months, nothing has really come out to spook the market just yet.
Not
We
yet.
haven't necessarily seen tariffs show up in the inflation data just
Right.
yet.
Right. Right.
Um, Whether it will or not, again, we have to keep waiting and waiting because this is April data that we're looking at, and
Mhm.
we'll have to wait and see what May data, June data, and all that stuff looks like. So, but the Fed has said that they will continue to be cautious and that they're not necessarily, gonna jump on the victory train just yet. So,
That's it. Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Yep. And the other interesting thing is consumer spending went up by 0.2%, but it's still lower than what in March we actually went up by 0.7% increase. So as this kind of suggests that people are kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna start holding my money back a little bit. I mean, it's not a
hmm
crazy drop, but it's like you kind of starting to see people like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna start holding my money back a little bit. I mean, it's not a crazy drop, but it's like, you kind of starting to see people like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna start holding my money back a little bit. I mean, it's not a crazy drop, but it's like you kind of starting to see people like, maybe I should only spend on necessities rather than like things that in entertainments and all these different things.
Correct. So we got the revision of GDP this week, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think the initial reading was negative zero point 0.3, but I think they revised it to negative zero point 0.2,
Point two.
which was
Yep.
a slight increase. But they said that the consumer spending number was a little bit softer.
Right.
So again, everybody's saying that the consumer is strong, the consumer is still spending, but the revision of this last GDP read showed that maybe that's not exactly what everybody is doing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, just a wait and see approach at this point. And that's what the Fed has been emphasizing.
I mean, the other thing I see also, like there was a number that says that people are starting to save more,
Hmm.
which also indicate a shift toward like, saving rather than spending. So people are
Hmm.
holding their money even more. They're like, again, this is all indicators that something is coming down the line that people are not sure about the economy, basically.
I also think too, even though before you get started, I also think too, another thing that's really hurting people's pockets is housing affordability. So
Yes. Yes.
if you're buying a home in this environment, it's going to eat a good chunk of your income.
Mhm. Yep.
So that is another thing. And also too, rental prices have been going up as well. So right now, I will say this: the stock market is not an indication of how the economy is doing, right?
Mm-mm. Mm.
The stock market is doing well, but the economy, you're slowly starting to see cracks, but nothing enough to scare the market as a whole just yet.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. Yep. But I mean, we also see that the impact of like the tariff hasn't really taken place
no, we
just
haven't
yet.
seen it
You
yet.
know what
We
I
haven't
mean?
seen
Speaking of tariffs, man.
it.
So I don't know when did that news come out? I think it was like Tuesday. So
Was it Tuesday or
or Wednesday,
Wednesday?
one of
Wednesday,
one of those
Wednesday,
days
Wednesday.
when the court basically said like what Trump did was illegal, blah blah blah, all that stuff. What happened in after hours, we saw the market turn around and went crazy. Like the futures was like it was just going crazy.
If you were a futures trader and you caught that move, you
You
were
made
very
money.
happy.
You made money. But then literally the next day, Trump went to the Court of Appeals and they stopped that injunction. It's like, nope, we're gonna stop it. Let's make sure that the tariff's still on until we figure out what's going on. So it's like, again, the back and forth when it comes to the tariffs has been crazy, and I am surprised that that really does drive the market up and down like that. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
am shocked at how crazy like still the mention of tariff just dropped the market crazy. I mean,
It's
we
it's still
talked
a
about
trigger word.
it's still trigger words is crazy. I mean, we talked about when Trump came out and said he's going to put a 50% tariffs on the European countries, and literally the next day it's like, oh, I'm a positive for. That's like, dude, like what what is happening? And again, we've seen the market drop when he said that, and the market ran up when he said that. It's like this is like this for me is like I don't know if it's market manipulation or what's going on, but
I
it's
mean,
definitely
to
crazy.
to me, it's a combo of market manipulation. But I will say this, for me as a trader, not knowing what to expect, going in from week to week, day to day,
Yeah.
I've been pretty gun shy, like very, very gun shy. I think this week is probably one of the weeks where I've probably done the least amount of trading in a week. And it was just because I could not trust what I was looking at.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you get these gaps like Thursday completely threw me off
yeah.
because we had that huge gap up, and then
Got the rug pulled out right after
halfway
that.
through the in the pre-market, everything just started to sell off, and
Yep,
I think we actually went red and gave up
yep.
pretty much all of the gains.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, for me, when I see stuff like that in the pre-market, I'm just like, the big move has already happened. Like, I don't need to
Yeah,
sit here and try to chase it.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
I'm just I'm being a little bit more cautious now. This is necessarily not the type of trading environment that I personally like to trade in. But I will also say too, one piece of data that got swept under the rug, if I'm not mistaken, the unemployment claim number on Thursday was a little
yes.
bit higher
It came higher.
than what people expected.
Yep,
Came in a little bit higher, and we've been
yep.
seeing that number start to trend up. And I think next week we're going to get a jobs number on Friday. I don't know if those things are going to translate into next week.
Hmm.
I heard Hims is laying off 4% of their workforce. That news just came in today.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
unemployment is trending higher. Let's just be candid and upfront about that. And that's
yep,
never a good thing in an economy where people are expecting the consumer to keep spending.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. And if you want to know how they calculate unemployment, they basically look at the number of people claiming for unemployment, right? So it's like you got to look at how many people filing for unemployment. We talked a lot about that. We talked about all these government employees that have been let go. We talked about all these people who's been laid off. Google was doing a lot of layoff. All these big tech companies doing a lot of layoff last year and part of this year too. So it's like now we're starting to see like those people like it's been maybe like 3 or 4 months now. So it's like
maybe it's
if
starting
you
to show up in the
yeah,
data.
if you haven't found a job, you're gonna have to claim unemployment because you can't really survive without some money coming in. So it's like
Correct.
now,
Or if your severance ended.
yep, more people are now going back into like, okay, I can't find a job. Which is for me is very interesting also because there was a report that came out from CEO of Fiverr, and he said that everybody should brace because AI is coming for everybody's job. Like he said, he's like, they're coming for my job, they're coming for your job. Like, so you know what I mean? So it's like literally people are being replaced today, by AI. And they can do things a lot 10 times faster and they don't get tired and you don't gotta pay them much. You know what I mean? So it's interesting how a lot of those high technology companies that we have, a lot of those like let's say software engineers and all those people, man, they're gonna be in deep trouble
Yep.
because that's like the easiest job to replace by AI. I mean, you're still gonna need somebody to spot and all that stuff to make sure like coding is correct, the design is correct, but honestly, probably need like 1 or 2 people rather than 100 engineers. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I think the efficiency that some of these technology companies, not even technology companies, all companies. I mean, you're talking about, robots flipping burgers now and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just saw I just saw a video of an autonomous mining site in China. All the trucks and all the equipment are run by robots.
Efficient,
So
efficient.
that's people that necessarily don't need to be present on site.
Yep,
So,
yep.
and to me, I keep saying that, computers are going to get smarter. And I'm still not going to sit here and think and claim all doom and gloom. But, any type of task that is kind of redundant and repeatable, if they
Yep.
can replace that with AI, that's
They're
probably
going to.
going to happen.
They're going to. They're
Yeah.
going to. I mean,
So,
we talked about tolls, right? Like that's one of the simplest things. Like if you think about it, back in the day, you used to drive to a toll, you got to stop, you got to pay somebody. These days, you ain't got to stop. They just scan your license plate, they send you a bill to your home. All these tolls, people that used to sit there, gone.
yeah. Yep.
You know, like
Yep.
imagine that now. Imagine that on a bigger scale. Imagine that there was a radiologist person who's like, he took 2 radiology scans. One he was looking at, and then one he gave to AI. So he basically said, like, looking at this chart, I can tell this person has pneumonia. Give it to AI. AI
I saw
literally
that.
highlight. And I was like,
I
yo,
saw
your
that.
job is done, my man. Like your job is done. You know what I mean? That's crazy to me that
Yeah.
those high quality jobs that we used to think about is most of them going to be disappearing in the next few
I
years.
still think there'll be some specialized stuff,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but man, I was seeing that in AI can draft an S1 for a company trying to go public.
yeah.
And I will be 100% honest with you. Klarna is going public or trying to IPO soon, right?
Klarna,
Klarna, the what do you
is
call
that
it?
the
The
pay
buy now,
now?
yeah, buy now, pay later,
Wait,
right?
wait, wait. I thought they just lost a bunch of money.
So they're losing money. So all of that information is in their S1. So that's what they're revealing in their S1, but they're trying to IPO. So that's
How?
why they're
Why?
so, so don't ask me, but when they have options, I might be looking at a short position in that company.
I am dead serious. That's an easy short right there.
But let me give you an example. So back in 2017, I think it was, or 2016, Snapchat went public.
Right.
I took the liberty to go through their entire S1 by myself, which was hundreds of pages
Mm,
because I was looking at specific things to figure out whether or not I should enter a short position, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was in, I think, August of 20, this might have been 2017, might have been 20, I think it was 2016. They went public. I entered a short position once the options became available. And I think I also shorted them before their first earnings call because I saw a lot of red flags in the company.
Yeah, yeah.
Made a good amount of money on that trade, but I had to go through their S1,
The whole thing.
like the whole thing. I went through Klarna's S1 in like half an hour with the use of ChatGPT. I
You just
just
uploaded it?
basically went into ChatGPT and asked for certain things that I wanted to highlight in the S1, and it
Yeah.
gave it to
Just
me,
spit it out for you.
spit it out.
Hey. Yeah, I'm reading here. They're supposed to IPO in March, but they delayed it.
Yeah, they delayed it, but they still want to IPO. That's the thing. They still want to go public. But
But that's probably the only saving grace though, because right now the company is losing tons of money.
the thing that I also think is that a lot of these companies that go public that may not want to go public, everybody who was an early investor, the VCs and all
Yeah, they're
that
trying
stuff,
to
they're
make
like,
money.
hey, they're trying to get their money out of the
Yep.
company
Yep.
because they make their big payday on the
On the
liquidation,
liquidation. Yep.
a liquidation event. So like an IPO or a buyout or something like that. So that's when they make their money because they're still
Right.
in the private market. So
Right.
they're probably putting pressure on the company like, hey, we need a liquidation event ASAP. Y'all better figure this out.
They should have went in March. They should have just did it in March.
Yeah. But
Because now I think a lot of people know now what's happening. So
but the thing is though, with the S1, if you want to go public, you got to start opening your books, right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
got to open your books to the public
yeah.
to show them what's really going on under the surface. As a private company, you don't have to do that. So now that they
That's
want to
true.
go public, they have to start showing the books. And to me, you talk about nasty work. Man, some of those numbers were just looking nasty.
Yeah, they
So,
said that they reported a net loss of $99 million in the first quarter of 2025, more than
hmm
double the loss from the same period in the previous year. So it's like
hmm
this increase is primarily attributed to 17% rise in consumer credit loss. Again, you
yep.
can tie all of these things together. Like you trying to tell me that I can eat my burger now, but pay you later? You think I'm going to remember later?
I mean, it's a bit. I mean, I don't know. I have never been a fan of that business model. I think the other company, Affirm, isn't that their main business,
Affirm is
right?
another one. Yes.
Affirm, if I want to look at their long term chart, yeah, they were, I mean, they went from $8 in October 2023 all the way to $82 at the high of February of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the business model seems to be working if the stock price is done that. Let me go back to their inception. Let's go back a little bit further back. Ooh, no, I take that back. Their high was 176
Mm-hmm. You're trading at $50.
and they're trading at 51. So, yeah, their business model is not
I don't know, man.
as robust as I thought it was because yeah, I think when they IPO, they were around like 90-ish, got to 176, and ever since then they have gone completely down.
Yeah.
But they've recovered from the lows. I mean, from 176 to $8. That's a nasty drop.
That is crazy drop.
That's a nasty drop.
Sheesh. Yeah, they've been
I didn't
dropping
I
since
didn't know they've been
2021.
public. Yeah, I didn't know they've been public this long. Yeah, they've been public since 2021. I thought
Mm-hmm.
they went public like 2023.
No,
No,
man.
2021. Wow. So yeah, they have fallen on hard times because ooh, that's a nasty drop. That is a
Yeah, and
nasty
again,
drop.
their business is all based on credit, right? You know, like you
Yes.
buy whatever the hell you want, as long as we can, as long as you can approve you for credit, go ahead and buy it, right? And then
Yep.
pay us later and pay us over time. Now, this business will work really well if the economy is doing good, right? It's like,
Yeah,
hey,
people have jobs. Yeah.
people have jobs, we can pay our stuff back. But usually, if people can't eat or can't buy the necessity stuff, guess who doesn't get paid first? The credit card holders.
hmm
The credit card companies. Like that's the first thing you just like. "Oh, I'm not gonna pay that. Like, what you guys gonna
Yeah.
do? Sue me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who cares? But I'm not gonna go hungry and pay you guys. You know what I mean?
hmm
So it's. I think that's probably what's happening to them. It's just like people just don't. People are not paying them off because they're paying necessity stuff, which is crazy.
And I've also started to hear that student loan delinquencies
It's coming out.
are
Mm-hmm.
starting to go up. So
Yep.
there are things, again, there are things that are going on in the economy that are red flags,
It's not reflected in the stock
but it's
market.
not really being reflected in the stock market. So, you know, I am I'm trying to I'm being positive on what we've seen. So, when you think bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I can't, really neglect or ignore some of the things that are starting to show up in some of the data that we're seeing, especially when it comes to the consumer. So,
I mean, the other thing too, we mentioned a couple of weeks, or even for the past few weeks, is the bond market. I mean,
mhm,
I'm seeing Ray Dalio's talking about it. I'm seeing Jamie Dimon is talking about it. Like they're always talking about bond market, bond market, bond market, because that's where all this stuff trickles. Like you know what I mean? That's how that we got downgraded because of the bond market. So it's like
mhm,
start thinking about those things.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know where we stand right now with the bond market, but let's
Yeah,
see.
based on what I've seen, rates came down this week. The bond market is not necessarily screaming anything relatively catastrophic just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the three things that did not help were the initial liberation day. I remember, the bond market was starting to scream danger
Mm-hmm.
during that. I think Scott Bessent tapped Trump on the shoulder and was like, hey, you got to back up. And that's what he started to claw back some of those tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
But the auction that didn't go too well last week was not also a good sign. But then I also think that the credit downgrade. So those three events have been affecting the bond market. But I'll say right now, things have sort of calmed down. Like we've had like these spikes, but then we've kind of calmed down. Then we get another spike, then we kind of calm down. So right
Yep.
now, things are, I'd say, fairly okay. But I was listening to Jamie Dimon today. Jamie Dimon was not very happy, and he was kind of proclaiming, kind of doom and gloom in the future when it comes to
I
the
don't
bond
trust that
market.
guy
So,
for a second though. That's the thing. Like I never trust him. I feel like he flip flops. Like you know what I mean. He goes from one extreme to the next, and all the while, him and his company are profiting from either
mm,
like all the news they're dumping out. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's sometimes when he talks, I was like, what do you want? Like, there's something always behind it. Because
yeah,
ain't no way you run a company that's based on satisfying your investors that you're gonna tell people to stop doing something, right? And be right about it. No, it's I don't know. I don't trust them at all. Oh man. But the fear and greed index is actually showing up that it's we in like in the area of greed,
mm,
and I can see why, because like every time we have a dip, people just,
gets bought up. Yeah,
even the way some of the sectors closed today was like, we bounced like crazy toward the end. And I was like, wow, that definitely explains why like we probably in the greed zone right now. So I don't know, man. We shall see. But let's move on to the some of the earnings for this week, man. We had NVIDIA earnings.
yep.
NVIDIA actually did some great numbers. I was shocked.
A lot of people were shocked because going into the earnings report, I was talking to some people. I was like, "What are you expecting?" They were expecting a revenue miss
Mm-hmm.
based on the China restriction.
Yep.
A lot of
Same
people were
here.
expecting that. They were like, the China restriction would probably hit the revenue, and we're expecting a miss.
Yeah. Yeah.
But surprisingly,
Even the way Johnson Juan was talking, like I was like, man, is this guy is he alluding to something? Because he was criticizing some of these moves that the Trump
yeah,
administration was
hmm
making. I was like,
yeah,
man, is he preparing us for something? Is this gonna be like a kind of like a drop in the market and in the stock when they reports? It's like, but no, man, surprisingly, they did really good.
yeah,
So their revenue was up. Their revenue was 44.1 billion. That's up 69% year over year and 12% quarter over quarter. Man, they beat the analyst expectation of $43.3 billion. So it's not by a lot, but they still beat it.
yeah. They still
Their
beat. Yeah,
yeah, their EPS per share was 0.81, excluding 4.5 billion charge related to unsold H220 chips due to export restrictions. So that's the chip that they're supposed to sell to China, I guess.
Mm.
Adjusted EPS will have been 0.96. The gross margin, 61.0%.
That's a lovely business.
Yeah. They're making buku money. That's what I was saying. But a lot of their stuff actually, like, their data center made a lot of money, $39.1 billion. Their gaming revenue was 3.8 billion. So they made a lot of money, man. They definitely made a lot of money. Wow.
And, and the one thing that I will say, and we may be a long way from this, right, is
Mhm.
that the China restriction is one thing, right? We don't know how that's going to play out. Politics and business are kind of getting
Yeah.
mixed together in that instance. People don't want to give China the tools to beat the United States in the AI race. That's
Yeah.
basically what they're afraid of. They're like, if they're buying the chip from us and we're giving them the tools and they're getting ahead of us, there's a problem. We got to cut the head of the snake.
Yep.
But as a lot of NVIDIA's customers, right? And I just want to, I know we're a long way from this, but I just want to put this out there when you think of NVIDIA's long-term trajectory as a company. A lot of their customers did not, especially in their earnings report, did not say anything about decreasing spend
Mhm.
on their chips or their capital expenditures.
Yep.
But behind the scenes, this is what I just want to make people aware of. And I don't know what NVIDIA's, I guess, their rebuttal will be towards this. So I just made a couple notes that five of NVIDIA's top customers are building their own chips.
Hmm.
We have Microsoft,
Yep.
we have Amazon, we have Google, Meta, and Apple. All
All
five of these
building.
companies are trying to build their own chips for whatever reason, either for leverage with NVIDIA, maybe for diversification from NVIDIA, maybe to
Yeah.
cut down spend from NVIDIA. But just know that those five companies are in the works of trying to build their own chips. Remember what happened to Intel, right? When
Hmm.
they didn't prepare for what Apple did to them.
Yep.
I'm not saying that's going to happen to NVIDIA, but if you're an NVIDIA investor, that is something that you have to be aware of.
Start thinking about. Yep.
You start thinking about that long term. Now, they're probably a long way from completely leaving NVIDIA from their the dependence from NVIDIA.
Right.
Probably not going to happen anytime soon. Which is why I keep saying that TSM is more important than NVIDIA. Because
Absolutely.
if we look at who is probably going to be contracted to build those chips because of the technology they have, probably going to be TSM.
PSM.
Now, unless Intel starts to revolutionize their chip building abilities over the next couple of years, the go-to to chip building is probably going to be TSM. And in
Yeah.
my opinion, there is a reason why those big old factories in Arizona are being built because the demand and the volume that's going to be needed to build chips is probably going to go up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
personally, long term, I think NVIDIA is a very, very good company. Don't get me wrong, but I will continue to hammer TSM as being the most important piece to the AI chip building story long term, in my opinion.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely. And then we saw that was it the Saudi Arabia or UAE that
yeah, I
they
think both of them.
yeah. So they wanted to have more technology. Now the backstory of that is the UAE and Saudi Arabia, they're trying to diversify away from oil because they
Hmm.
made a lot of their money from oil. So they are trying to be smart about it. Like, hey, eventually we have to relinquish our dependence on oil, but we can't
Hmm.
just making our money off of this because if that got shut down, that's there goes the whole country. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So let's start building data centers. Let's start investing more into technology. Let's start doing things that actually gonna catch us up to the world rather than just have money. It's great to have money, but technologically wise, you need to be able to stay up with the top of the world. So that's one of the main reasons they're ramping up a lot of money into building the technology. And then
data centers. Yep.
yes, and then we talked about this, like, okay, so who's going to be actually the players from that? You know what I mean? Who's going to be hired? Who's going to get the contract and all that stuff? I mean, yeah, I mean, I think TSM and Intel probably is in that is at that part because they actually make the chip. I guess Intel does both, but TSM mainly is the one that actually manufactured the chip. So I completely agree. TSM is probably the underdog in this whole chip manufacturing, chip data, AI, all that stuff. They're probably the underdog right now that nobody's really paying attention to right now.
I keep saying it. I wish I did not. I wish I would have rolled my TSM leaps. And I wish I would have bought some TSM when we had that drop in April. I actually bought NVDA instead of TSM. But long term, like I would not be surprised if over a 5-year period, I'd probably say maybe TSM outperforms NVIDIA. I
Oh,
would
absolutely.
not be surprised. It would not surprise me.
Absolutely.
Um, but I also think that because TSM is in Taiwan, you also got to think about the politics involved with that. You always hear China talking about they want to take back Taiwan.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
always have to keep that in the back of your mind. I don't know if they're going to be building their best chips in Arizona. I'm not sure which chips they're going to be building, but I just know that you don't build two mega plants of that size in the US if the demand's not there. So
Mm-mm,
I
mm-mm.
really like TSM long term, and I will probably be looking. They will probably be the number one stock on my shopping list if we see any major
Pull
pullback
back.
in the future,
Yes.
because I need to I need to get back into that play because the initial play that I had years ago, man, that thing ran, but I need to dip my toe back into that. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, that's the company that everybody's gonna probably run to make those chips and stuff.
yeah,
So they are
yeah,
very,
because
very important.
yeah, their technology is top notch when it comes to chip building, and that's why
Yep,
everybody AMD, I think Broadcom is also a customer.
yep.
Qualcomm is also a
Qualcomm.
customer. NVIDIA is a customer. Like all the big chip players, they go to
Yep.
TSM to build the chips
And they're
because
B2B, so
B
you
two
know,
B,
money coming.
B two B, yeah, B2B. Because I think they have that nanometer technology to be able
Yep.
to just like to really like inscribe the chips in like the
The smallest
smallest of
space. Yep.
spaces.
Yep.
I don't
Yep.
think anybody else has that type of technology. So
They're definitely the underdog right now. But yeah, but you heard it here first, and I think you've been talking about TSM for like since last year. So I hope y'all listening.
before last year, I
Yeah,
had leaps. I think I had leaps back, and I think it might have been like 2023
yeah, yeah.
was when I started my leap position in TSM, and I rode it, and I made really good profit on it, and I eventually
Mm-hmm.
exited the position. But I should have rolled to
To
a
the next
higher
city. Yep,
to a further higher strike and further expiration. But
yep,
lesson
yep.
learned. Same
Yeah,
thing with
I mean,
CrowdStrike. That's another one that
CrowdStrike, same
I
thing.
keep looking at.
don't cry
Foolish,
about don't cry about
foolish of
spilled
me.
milk. Don't cry about spilled milk, man.
I will say Oklo has made up for that mess though.
Yes, yes, absolutely. All right, let's move on to the retails, man. We saw some mixed bag this week of earnings report when it comes to retail. One of the ones that I was surprised was Ulta Beauty. Do you see that move in Ulta? I was like, yo, what are they selling over their drugs? Like,
So look at Ulta Beauty and then go look at what happened with Elf.
Elf, yeah.
Both in the beauty space. Go look at those jumps.
Sheesh.
So Elf, I think, bought
Wow.
out Justin Bieber's wife's company or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And usually when you see an acquisition like that, you don't see a stock jump like that. That's rare.
That's
But I
crazy.
guess it's a hot space. But yeah, that stock went crazy. Both
That's
of them.
crazy. Yeah. The other one is Costco. Costco also ran up. It kind of pulled back a little bit, but then it just came back with a vengeance. But that thing ran up like all the way to like 1052 just today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it created a high today.
Costco is almost Teflon. Like it's almost like a Teflon business. Like
That's crazy, man.
yeah. But
That's
on the other
crazy.
side of that, we had Gap. Go look at Gap. Gap was down, I think, like 20% today after they
Yep.
reported earnings.
Yep.
So when you start to look at the retail space, some people have been able to figure it out. Some others just really
Yes. Yeah.
have not been able to figure it out. that's a very bifurcated sector of the market is the retail space. Like, I think another company that has fallen from the highs, it's not doing too bad. TJ Maxx,
Mm-hmm.
took a nice little dip from 135 to 126 now.
Yep.
Um, Ross Stores took a nice little dive after they reported earnings.
Yep.
Um, Looks like it possibly could be headed lower. So the retail space is very, very bifurcated. That's a sector where you have to be a really good stock picker and pick good businesses and not just buy the whole sector because I mean if you bought Target, you're probably very angry about what that last earnings report as well. So I think Target might have recovered a little bit. I was looking to short it this weekend. I missed my opportunity.
I mean, Target still got a lot of problems, man.
Yeah, they got a lot of problems.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we see Macy's drop, Best Buy also. They pulled their whole full year sales. Gap, A&F, Abercrombie& French. I mean, I think A&F actually went up for some reason. Let me see.
A&F
No,
actually it
yeah, it
gave up
gapped up.
it
Oh
gave back a lot.
wow, it
It
gave up
gave
all
back
of
a
it.
lot. Yeah, it gave back a lot. Yeah.
Eee,
Gave back a lot. So
what a rug pull.
a lot of these retail businesses, they have to navigate this tariff stuff and they're having some of them are having some difficult times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I heard on the retail side that Home Depot's talking about they're not going to be raising prices and they're just trying to diversify their supply chain,
Mm.
which very interesting move. We'll see how that affects them in their next earnings report. But um, they actually,
The other thing too, I see that Walmart is also they're probably going to be dealing with the whole DEI stuff also on top of that.
mm,
So that's another thing that's about to happen to Walmart and all their subsidiaries. So you're talking about Walmart. Walmart owns Sam's Club. I
you might
think
be
so.
right. I think so.
Yeah, they own Sam's Club. So like, there's a lot of talks right now about boycotting them too. So I wonder how that's going to impact
Oh wow.
Walmart. Yeah. So we'll shall see. But overall, man, retail performance this week is just it's crazy. It's like, how do you adapt to this market where you talk about tariffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
All this is happening. How do you navigate consumer behavior because people are
Yep.
not spending as much anymore, and
Mm-hmm.
economic uncertainties? Like, how do you, like, as a retail place, you're selling clothes, you're selling things that people like, instead of B2B, B to consumer, like you're selling direct
Mm-hmm.
to consumer. How do you navigate that? That's, for me, like, that's a crazy business to be in at this time right now. Unless if you have a commodity that people really, really need at all times, man, I don't know. Like, I really don't know.
Yeah, to me, if you're in the retail space or if you're somebody who's looking to get into retail or you have retail positions, to me, Costco is probably your best bet,
Yeah.
mainly because they got that reoccurring membership
Yep.
revenue.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And if you go to
So
Costco on a weekend, good luck, man. Like, that line is ridiculous. Like,
I'm not gonna lie, I went to Best Buy not too long ago. Empty.
this is dead.
Empty.
It's
No
dead.
foot traffic in Best Buy. I used to work at Best Buy before I went to college. This was back in summer of 2004. Man,
Yeah.
that place used to be packed.
Yep. Not anymore.
Now I went to Costco. I mean, I went to Best Buy maybe I'd say maybe 3 times in the last like 6 months to Joe pick up online orders.
Yeah.
No one's there.
Yeah.
No one is there.
Mm, mm, mm.
So
And I honestly, I don't like their customer service. Customer service is horrible. I'm sorry, man. Every time I go there, it's like I can never find anybody. And then when you find
yeah.
somebody, it's like they look like they don't want to help you. And I was like, yo,
hmm
you know what they need to do to y'all? They need to pay you guys based on sales performance. Because I think at that point you pay attention to the customers walking in because they're not they're not getting paid on sales. They like, whether you make a sale or not, you're gonna get paid. You
Yeah.
know?
So they actually so when I worked there, you got sales, not necessarily a commission, but you got like sales bonuses,
Yeah.
but you also got an hourly pay. But the bonuses were not really like substantial. It was
Yeah.
mostly the
They
hourly stuff.
need to reverse that thing. I think if they do that, they're gonna find a lot of people walking in there, and the sales will go up. Because
But to me, when
crowd.
you're used to your store being empty, it's kind of hard to when somebody finally comes up to you, you ain't been doing anything for like the last 5 hours. So that 6 hour when
Yeah,
somebody shows up, you probably like, what do you want?
I was like,
That's probably how
man,
it. That's probably how it is.
I
But
was like, yo, y'all gotta give a better customer service than this, man. Come on. Oh man. But seriously, the last time I went there, the last time I went in there was to get like the AirPods. I
mm,
literally walked in, I knew exactly where I was going. I grabbed it, didn't talk to anybody, like not even a hi, hello until I got to the desk. That's when it was like, oh, okay, you want to buy this? All right. And literally that's the whole transaction took like maybe 5 minutes from the time I walked in to the time I walk out, you know? So it's just interesting to me that the customer service is not there. But anyways, let's look into next week earnings and catalysts and anything that's coming up. I mean, we start a new quarter. We're going into the end of the quarter next week. June is going to be the end of the second quarter. So I am kind of curious to see how the market is going to do, what sector rotation we're going to see, where money is going to be flowing and all that stuff. So, I don't know with um, the earnings that we have this season. I don't know what's the investors going to be looking at coming up next week. So we shall see how June opens up. That's because that's going to be very very interesting. But we do have some reporting next week. We have Zoom reporting after market. MongoDB, and CrowdStrike also reports after market on Tuesday, June 3rd.
and
So
I also think we got Broadcom coming up as well.
Brock coming June 5th. That's coming out also.
Yeah,
Five Below. I might be curious about Five Below. See what
because
they.
they're a retail company.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Lululemon. They're about
Okay.
to
So another
report.
another retail.
Yep. And then we have another one, DocuSign. I don't know. I don't understand DocuSign anymore. I mean, we have AI now, so you don't really have to like go to them anymore. But I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see what they're going to report. But some of the key economic events that's coming out next week, we have the a initial jobless claims Thursday, June
Thursday,
5th. Yep,
and
at
then I think
8:30.
non-farm payrolls on Friday.
Yep. So I don't know how that's going to impact or what are we going to see. But honestly, there's not a lot of report coming out the first week of the month next week. So not a lot of catalysts from my perspective because we don't even have the Fed speaking or anything like that coming out.
Mm. Oh
Uh,
no, Jerome Powell does speak on Monday.
is
I don't know if it's at a conference or where it is, but I think Jerome Powell speaks on Monday.
okay.
Fact check me on that, but I think he does.
Jerome Powell speech.
Yeah, fact check me on that, but I think he does.
I wonder what he's going to be. I don't know what he's going to say. Or what kind of questions he's going to get. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
trying to figure out where he's speaking though.
Yeah, it's not coming up here, but we'll look it up and let you know. But in any news, like I'll just be curious to see how the market react to the end of the quarter to
Hmm.
see how we're gonna do, and then see any market rotation stuff. I think the end of the quarter for me is exciting time because now you get to see like okay, you can literally go to the 3 months chart, see exactly which companies are showing either like a hammer inside candle on the on the quarterly and start seeing those companies to be able to like okay the next quarter you can see like money flowing into them and stuff and maybe even start with the sectors, go to the different sectors, go to the 3 month and start seeing like which where money is flowing into, which where money is flowing out of, and then be able to kind of adjust that way. So that would be a good way to for you to see like where money is going if there's any sector rotation like that.
Oh, another thing I also wanted to put out there that we didn't really talk about is Trump came out and said that China has not been sticking to the trade deal and frictions are starting to bubble on both
Yeah,
sides.
yeah.
He said he would talk to Xi Jinping, um, but we don't know what could transpire over the weekend as far as how that is going to end up.
Yep, yep.
I did not necessarily see a big market reaction on the news, but one of the things that I don't want to leave um, undiscussed is that the deal that I guess China and the U.S. had in principle, somebody seems to be playing games. China's blaming the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. is blaming China.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to wake up on Monday and say 145% tariff back off. So we'll see what happens, what transpires over the weekend.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's the, you know, he didn't do this, she didn't do that talk going on between those two countries. So
But I mean, I
um,
guess I guess the guys are supposed to be talking. They're not talking anymore. It looks like talk kind of stall a little bit, so they're not even having a
mm,
conversation anymore. So now it's going to require actually the two presidents to actually get on the phone and talk and figure out this whole thing out because I guess these guys are not getting anywhere. So that's going to be interesting. I didn't even know. I didn't even realize that Trump just put a 50%
well,
tariffs
I think I
on the
might have
steel
lost
on the steel. Are you there?
you.
I can hear you, but you frozen. Looks like we lost Wale.
Good
But
difficulties.
oh, there you go. You came back.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
my internet just went unstable.
yeah. You
And I
you and
think,
that whole earthquake over there, man. It's probably hitting
yeah, we had an
everybody.
earthquake earlier today, and the Wi-Fi signal went out, and the electricity went out for a little bit. So
Dang.
I think that might be still feeling some after effects. But
Yeah. But I was saying that that President Trump just put a 50% tariff on U.S. steel. So
oh,
I don't
on
know,
steel imports, I saw that. I
two
saw
hours
that.
ago. So we shall see how that's actually.
I'll be honest with you, man. I'm
uh,
not gonna lie. This was a very frustrating trading week for me. I am not gonna sit here and lie. I was very frustrated this entire week because everything that I thought I saw did not really
Did
play
not.
out the
Yeah.
way I'm used to seeing it play out.
Yep. 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 One
So,
one thing we forgot to talk about is Tesla. We finally see that Elon is kind of dropping off of the Doge and all that stuff, so it's trying to refocus back on the company. But still, man, this man, new bad news to just keep following him. The whole drugs thing and all these different things. I mean, I don't know, man. He really has some good investors in Tesla and Starlink and all this stuff because those investors really believe in him. You know what I mean? With
mhm,
all the craziness going around him, like Tesla, I mean, Tesla is doing good. I mean, we've seen a little pullback today, but overall, Tesla have recovered a lot from from the drop and stuff. Um, but other than that, man, like he, they have a huge PR problem that's going on right now. They need to fix that.
mhm.
So
I wouldn't actually be surprised. I'm looking at the setup on Tesla right now. I would not be surprised if this thing drops on Monday.
yeah, you see the weekly. The weekly looks horrible, man.
Yeah, the weekly looks terrible. You're gonna get a new candle on the month. Yeah, you got a shooter on the weekly. You got a
Mhm.
3-1 setup on the 4 hour with an inside shooter.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if this thing drops.
Yeah. I'm thinking we're probably gonna test that 327 area.
Yep. Hmm.
If we fail that, we're probably gonna go all the way into 312. And then there's a gap fill on the 4 hour there, the 307, 307, 306, 307. Yeah. So I don't know,
Yeah, I
man.
might be looking at some Tesla puts. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was looking at Tesla this morning. I was like, "Oh, this looks bullish." And next thing I know,
Nah,
nose
that thing
nose
reversed, man.
nosedive.
That thing reversed, man. But
So,
the other thing that's I'm seeing also the VIX gonna drop a little bit today.
yeah, below
Um,
19. I saw that.
yeah. So we shall see where we go from here. I mean, we created a lower high for this week. Yeah, I think we hit like 25 and then we just died from there. So I think
Yeah,
if
I
we
thought we was out of the VIX camp last week when it got to like 17, and the next thing you know, that
yeah,
thing
that thing
just
popped
went
up. Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
So
But yeah, we create another lower high. So I wonder if we're gonna create another lower low. If you break that 16, is that 16 or 17? Yeah, $17. 17, 16. If we break that, I think we're gonna create another lower low. So yeah, we'll see, man. That's another one you guys gotta pay attention to because
so
it's
let me actually give you a trade that went crazy that I saw today. So Regeneron, right?
mm-hmm.
Regeneron had a failed drug um, trial today.
Mm,
And I was looking at some of the puts for today. There wasn't a lot of volume, but I was just looking at what those puts paid. Let me just give you some numbers. If you bought the Regeneron 555 put today, your puts are up 644,000%.
what the hell, man? You
If you
serious?
if you bought the
That's
55
crazy.
put, you were up 644,000%. The 550, the 545, the 540, the 535, all up between 500,000 to 400,000%.
That's crazy. Now, do you guys know that there is a website? I gotta get it to you guys, but there
That
is a
gives you the
website.
list of the trials coming up.
Yes, and it
Yeah,
gives
I
you like
know.
when it's coming out. Like, I think we need to stop picking because those drugs, man, like those, if it's successful, that thing shoots up like crazy. You know what I mean? If you get a straddle on that thing, man, you might make
I mean,
$60,000.
if I lose an entire side, but the other side pays me 640,000%, I've
Listen,
won.
I'm happy.
I've won.
I am super happy.
Yeah, I found out about that web. I forget the name of the website, but I found out about that website. I think like maybe like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we might need to start paying attention to that,
Might
man.
have to
See
start
what's
tapping
what's
in.
yeah, what's coming up next? Because dude, those pop up and drop are crazy, you know. So, but yeah. Anyways, man, what's going on next week? What is your advice going into next week before we close out here?
Man, my advice for next week, I would probably say this market is very tricky right now. I know that May was a good month for stocks in general. I think the Nasdaq was up like 9%, S&P was up like 6% plus. Really good month. For some weird reason, I still haven't been able to like buy the hype yet. Um, the unemployment data is the one that I'm really kind of just that makes me the most uncomfortable. I know that we're still sitting at 4.2% unemployment, which is good. But as I continue to see unemployment claims start to tick up week by week, makes me a little bit nervous.
Yep.
So again, great week for stocks. Don't get me wrong. Great month for stocks. Don't get me wrong. But I still always want to tell people look at bigger picture because the stock market is not an indication of what the economy is really doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that is my tidbit. You got to separate the two. Also, too, if I'm going to be buying stocks in this environment, I think we talked about this for months. I like B2B over B2C.
Yep.
So any
Stay away,
sort of,
stay away from retail, basically.
yeah, retail is a little bit tricky. It's a
Yep.
little, now I'm not saying that there isn't value in some of those names, maybe over the next couple of years, but I feel a lot more comfortable in the B2B space rather than the B2C space.
Yep.
So
Yep. Absolutely.
I've been looking at Nike, man, but the more I look at Nike, the more I just think about it's a broken business. And
Man.
until, I mean, Nike was at 52, it's now trading at like 60. So, a decent move. But when I keep doing my analysis of them as a business, I still feel like they're a broken business.
Yep. Yep.
And I also feel like they need to shed more fat. And as I pull up Nike's chart, I see a inside shooter on Nike on the 4 hour. And I let me look at the weekly. And I see an inside shooter on the weekly that got rejected in a bearish fair value gap.
Yep. And
Maybe Nike puts might be in play next
yep.
week.
And we created a lower high. So we definitely we're gonna take that 52 low out. That's what we're
And,
heading next.
and you got a potential gap fill all the way down at 58 ducks.
Yeah.
58.96 area, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Oh yeah.
yeah. So buy broken stocks, don't buy broken businesses.
Broken businesses. There you go. That
Yeah.
should be a
So
motto right there. Get a
that's
banner in the back and just put it right
put
there.
it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, there
Isn't
you
that
go.
isn't that what Shaq tells the dude, the
Yep.
underdog on
Just,
TNT? Put it
just,
on a
just
t-shirt.
put it on a t-shirt, man. That's
Yeah.
that's that's
So
crazy.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, like I said, as we get into Q2, something still tells me that I need to like be alert of certain
Yep.
things.
Yep.
Um, so I like the move we've made in May, but I'm not completely sold that we're out of the woods.
Yep.
So, you know,
Absolutely.
I'm not saying sell all your stocks, but I will say this, have cash ready to deploy if we see another pullback. So,
Yep.
because
Yep.
again, I still think a
Yep.
18, 19 VIX still tells me there's still a lot of uncertainty priced into the
Yep.
market.
Yep. We're gonna get another opportunity, so make sure you guys are ready for it. With
Yep.
that being said, that's a wrap, man, for this week's edition of the Wall Street Rundown. We covered a lot of stuff today: earnings, surprises, inflation data, economic calendar, all of those stuff. So make sure you guys stay sharp, man, stay informed, and please, please trade with discipline. Manage your risk, man, because that's another one that you guys like people really need to pay attention to. So if you find this episode helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, share with any fellow investor, trader. Make sure that they're able to tune in, and we'll catch you next time when we are back next week on Wednesday. We should be back on program next week on Wednesday. So again, please share, subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
All right, everyone, take care.
All right.